Biden and many of the other Democrats in Congress prove that they don't care about human rights or international law. You can't claim to be in support of international law and then defend your ally from any kind of prosecution for violating international law. You can't claim to be for human rights while at the same time supporting a government committing a genocide and denying people their human rights.
To the best of my knowledge, however, tomorrow will be unique in bringing Prime Minister Netanyahu to address a joint meeting of Congress. It will be the first time in American history that a war criminal has been given that honor. Frankly,
Yeah, imagine if Putin was allowed to come to the United States and speak to Congress about what he would do to Ukraine. Nobody would be supporting that, but maybe a few right-wingers, Democrats in Congress would be against that because he's a war criminal. But yeah, when it's Netanyahu, somehow he's special.
this invitation to Netanyahu is a disgrace and something that we will look back on with regret. Madam President, I think we all agree that Israel had the right to defend itself against the horrific Hamas attack on October 7th. But Netanyahu's extreme right-wing government has, since that attack, waged what amounts to a total war against the entire Palestinian people, making life unlivable in Gaza and killing tens of thousands. These actions have trampled on international law, on American law, and on basic human values. It is absolutely irresponsible for us to turn our backs on one of the worst humanitarian disasters in modern history, especially when that disaster has been aided and abetted by U.S. taxpayer dollars and weapons. In other words, it's not just the Israeli government, it is us and our money and our weaponry as well.
Yeah, because the Israeli government wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't heavily funded by the United States. It's the United States giving the Israeli government most of the money, and, well, the United States is the biggest supplier of weapons to the Israeli government and the biggest supplier of funds.
Since this war began, among a population of 2.2 million people, at least 39,000 Palestinians have been killed and 89,000 injured, 60% of whom are women, children, or elderly people.
And that doesn't account for the people that are buried and missing underneath rubble. The numbers can reach into, over 100,000 Palestinians killed by the Israeli government.
Most observers believe that the death toll is much higher because thousands of people remain buried under the mountains of rubble. Their bodies have not yet been recovered. Madam President, some 1.9 million people out of a population of 2.2 million have been driven from their homes. 90% of the population. Take a deep breath. 90% of the population driven from their homes.
Now, if this was on the other foot, and 90% of the population of Israel were driven from their homes, this would be Biden and all the other Democrats would be acting differently, saying that we will have to protect the Israelis from a genocide being committed against them, because that's what they would say. They would admit that it's a genocide. But because it's happening to Palestinians, Biden and many of his Zionist supporters don't want to admit that what is going on is a genocide.
The vast majority of these desperate and poor people have now been displaced not once, not twice, but in some cases 4 or 5 times, herded around like cattle.